Good afternoon. My name is Chi Baker, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. I am a nationally certified drug and alcohol counselor, and I am a martial art instructor. And part of the work I do is movement therapy and using aspects of Tai Chi and Qigong, as well as weaving in philosophies of Taoism and Buddhism into that movement. So I want to talk a little bit today about Taoism and about the symbol of yin yang, and hopefully people gain a better sense of what is Taoism and how does the yin and yang fit in that, and how can you use this philosophy to undo stagnation, to gain more flexibility, more mindfulness, being able to be more fluid with life. And so when you run into obstacles, you don't just collide into them and get stuck, but actually, if you meet an obstacle, is bend and move through. Kind of like what Bruce Lee talked about was be like water, my friend. And so that we don't have these obstructions in our life that get us mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually stuck. And being stuck, as we have all faced and managed our lives, creates struggle. It creates illness. It creates frustration, toxicity in the body, the mind. It can create symptoms of depression, anxiety, anger, and obviously reduce our happiness, our functionality, our joy, and our ability to thrive in this life. So, Taoism is talking about being in the moment, of staying in touch with the here and now. And one big thing that we talk about is that the here and now is the only place that we can actually create change. It's the only place that we truly live. And unfortunately, many people either live in the past, and that is typically the focus of or main contributor to depression, or they live in the future, which is a condition that can become toxic and turn into anxiety. And so people can also oscillate between these two, of anxiety and then depression, anxiety and depression. And that is very difficult, very taxing. It creates a lot of suffering in our lives. And so what we want to do is, instead of going from here to here, is come into the very middle of the here and now, and really focus on that here and now, so that we can thrive, we can create change, we can better ourselves, enjoy what life has to offer. So, Taoism is about being in the here and now, and a lot of that is, today we talk a lot about mindfulness, and mindfulness has become very in vogue. It's a word, a term that people throw around a lot, and I can talk later more about what mindfulness is to me and different components. Right now, again, I want to kind of go back to a concept of using the yin and yang. So hopefully my whiteboard here will be visible on camera, and we'll see how it goes. So oftentimes people live in the box and they're trapped in a box. And if you notice with the box, it's got 4 very sharp corners. It's got a very rigid structure, and it's a container that sometimes can be beneficial, but it also can become kind of like a cage. And so either most people stay in the box. This is your comfort zone. This is where you have familiarity. It's also that continues your struggle point. So one of the definitions that we know of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, that's staying in that box, right? You're doing the same thing that you know over and over repetitively, and hoping that somehow miraculously change happens, which it rarely does, unfortunately. So we can be in the box, and then hopefully some people are able to voyage outside the box. Okay, so we have inside the box and outside the box. Again, it's a very dualistic existence. Most of the time it's a singular existence of staying in the box, and sometimes some people fortunately can jump out of the box. From that, what we do is we can stay in the box, and what happens is that we have two sides of in the box. Right. We've got rigid thinking, and a lot of this, again, we call black and white thinking. So we've got rigid thinking or black and white thinking. And these are the two extremes, the polarities of life. Either life is all good or life is all bad. And a lot of people will go between these two. This is, in extreme cases, something similar to bipolar disorder. And a lot of times you see this in children. So children are having a great day and they're elated, or they're really sad, really upset, and everything is horrible. Right? Unfortunately, we as grown-ups sometimes struggle with this too. And we can't, again, find happiness or contentment, peace, because we oscillate between the two, and it's up and down, and up and down, up and down, up and down, which again is very demoralizing, it's very frustrating, very disheartening, very taxing, and it is a very difficult place to live in. So we have a rigid place, black and white thinking. Hopefully at some point that things start to get rounder. So instead of these sharp edges, right, pointy objects, pointy ways of thinking, we start to round that off. And again, we can go back to this example of sometimes things are round, but it's still in and out. So things are maybe a little softer. So maybe we start having a little bit of compassion, or maybe a little bit of flexibility. Things aren't just so rigid and kind of stuck, right? I think this way, or I think this way, right? It's more of, well, I think this way, but I'm able to kind of start to shape it, and maybe I can start to see some other people's perspectives. Maybe I'm a little softer on myself, maybe more compassionate to others, and things start to get softer, rounded, less rigid. Moving forward, what we do is, again, we kind of have that non-rigidity, and then we move back into things are softer, rounder, yet a lot of it is still very black and white. So we can be compassionate, or be able to listen to others, but they're still wrong. We can maybe be more gentle with ourselves, yet our way of thinking hasn't really changed much. So things have again gotten kind of those softer tones, but it's still kind of very, very stark, very kind of conflictual, very kind of one or other sided. I see this a lot. Again, these things of kind of black and white thinking is I'm right, you're wrong. And I talk a lot with people in couples counseling about this, about when one's right, one's wrong, one wins and one loses. And is that really a part of your relationship that you're looking for, that you want your partner to lose? You are wrong and you are lose, and I'm going to show you how much of a loser you are. Right? That's not really collaborative, not really great partnership. And it's something that happens often, and people just start butting heads, right? And they say, okay, well, I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to prove my point, right? And that's a difficult place for both people to be in. Okay. Moving forward. We've got our circle. And then instead of this very rigid line, what we start to do is have a more rounded line. Right? And here's where we start to see the symbol of the yin yang. And the symbol of the yin yang is that this is a flowing river. So some people say it's a flowing river through a valley or between mountains. And again, it's something that we are starting to bend, starting to weave, start to be more fluid, more flexible. we are having these rounded edges, and then within that we are allowing ourselves to be more fluid. Moving forward, is that again you have this yin-yang piece, and then what you do within that is understand that even with things is that we still have a duality. So we have that hardness, we also have softness, we have quiet times, and we have loud times. We have places of cold and places of heat. Okay, so we have those two, and they play off of each other. And one thing we talk about in Tai Chi is that we only know anger if we know calmness. We only know happiness if we know despair. Right? We only know and can understand the concept of something that's high if we know or understand what low means. And so you need to understand the opposite. You need to have witnessed, perhaps experienced it, in order to understand this too. Part of it, the understanding of the piece of fluidity, is that if I understand hardness and therefore I understand softness, perhaps I can reach that state of softness when I'm in place of hardness. When I'm in place of struggle and conflict, perhaps I can find that place of harmony and balance. So it's saying that I know this and this is where I'm at, but I also know that I can move and get down to here because I know this, I also know this. And hopefully if I know this, I can find this. Right? And so that's what we do in terms of a lot of the movement work, is that we want to explore those pieces, that duality, and find that place, sometimes a struggle of conflict, of hardness, and relax and weave down and get to that place of softness. And knowing that, both are valuable. It depends on the situation. So if it's rally time, right, you don't want to be soft and calm. You want to be invigorated, right? You need to get up and go. You need to move fast, move forward. You need to really persevere and push in order to succeed. And sometimes that's what is needed. After all that, though, of course, if you don't relax, if you don't calm down, if you don't kind of enjoy, if you don't soothe, that you're going to get burned out, your body's going to get taxed and broken. And so we need to find those moments of calmness, of softness, of tranquility, of rest, so that we can nourish and rejuvenate and regain and be able to get back up to that place when needed, of hardness, of speed, etc. Right? So the final part of the symbol of the yin-yang, draw a little bit bigger, is that in each part of the other side, and some say the nucleus of the other side, is the opposite. And very much in the philosophy is that one is born out of the other. Similar to what I was talking about, is that you can't understand high unless you know low. You can't understand fast unless you know slow. You can't understand love until you understand hatred. You can't understand anger until you kind of understand calmness. And so in the very center of both these sides is that opposite piece. And very much that creates the harmony and the balance. And the key is that that's what we're trying to reach. Harmony and balance in each moment. Harmony and balance doesn't mean that things are easy necessarily, and doesn't mean that everything is blissful and that we've reached a state of nirvana, right? Which, obviously would be nice. Um, it means essentially that I can be in this moment. I can be in this moment of pain. I can be in this moment of rage. I can be in this moment of suffering. And I know that there's the opposite. And I know that through my process, through my work, that I can find the other. And as long as I allow that to happen, as long as I'm not attached to my rage, to my anger, to my frustration, that it will move and things will change. In part of Buddhism, we talk about the concepts of impermanence, that nothing is permanent. Nothing. Nothing is. Our bodies aren't permanent. The sunrise is not permanent, right? There's darkness. High tide is not permanent. There's low tide. Nothing is permanent. And so, unfortunately, a lot of us try to cling to permanency. We want to hold on to things, either good things or bad things, right? We want that moment to last forever, that beauty, that wonder, right? And when it doesn't, we create suffering. Just as well as sometimes when people get angry, they just want to stay angry. I want to see so mad. I want to see just rage inside, right? And eventually, you're going to wear out and it's going to end. And so we want to let go. We want to be non-attached. We want to understand the process of impermanence. We want to understand the process of fluidity. Let things move. Let things flow. And so, again, going back to how we can look at this philosophy and entwine it into our lives is understand that we don't need to stay stuck. We can choose to stay stuck for a time period. Again, it's not going to last forever. But a lot of times it's saying, like, that has happened. Okay, let's move past it. It doesn't need to be a part of the next moment. Okay, we don't need to be stuck in that past. We can move forward. And so we can allow the concept of harmony, of balance, of interconnectedness, of fluidity, and let things move. Let things transform to another state. And the more you're able to practice this, the more life can become easier. In fact, I think it does become easier. And there's many opportunities I have even every day where things are a struggle, things are difficult. I've got 2 little kids who require a lot of energy, and sometimes it's a big struggle. Like getting them up in the morning and getting them dressed isn't easy. But if I stay in that place of, oh my God, why don't they get up? Why don't they get dressed? Why won't they listen, right? And I keep and harbinge that energy, then it ruins the rest of my day. We're saying like, they're little kids. They're going to struggle. I'm going to struggle. Right now we're struggling. Okay, so we're going to struggle for a little while. And then things are going to relax. And so you can help things move forward. You can let things change their pathway and move into a better place. Just as much as understanding things that are in a good place, that time is going to end to and perhaps transform into a less positive place. And that's okay. That's life. Life does happen. Part of Taoism and Buddhism is we're not trying to create a perfect world, a beautiful life, happiness always. That's not reality. Okay? What it is that when we're suffering, when we're struggling, is allow it to go, allow it to move. And that creates that harmony and balance, and we can move forward, and then we can grow from it. We can learn from it and become, hopefully, wiser. Our life can be more enriched from our experience, from that struggle, or from that place of happiness. So, hopefully this gives you a little bit more understanding about the yin and yang, about kind of the philosophy of transforming of a very rigid kind of square box through into something more rounded, eventually into something that's very fluid and works in harmony and balance of each other. And hopefully you can start to utilize some of this concept in your life and make things easier, more manageable, more sustainable, more fluid, and therefore have more harmony and balance in your life, and being able to ride out the difficult moments and allow things to move into a better place. There's a famous saying by a Swami that it's something similar to we can't stop the waves, but we can learn to ride them. Something like that. And it's a beautiful quote. We can't stop what happens in life. We can't stop the waves and things that happen, but we can learn to ride them and surf them into a better place. And that's hopefully what we are doing. So I wish you well, and I thank you for spending this time with me, and hopefully this will be a benefit to you. Take care.